Avengers Doomsday has been a very polarizing topic pretty much since its announcement, and it makes sense. Along with the announcement of Avengers Doomsday, the very first piece of information that we got was that Robert Downey Jr. for some reason would be returning, not as Iron Man, but as the main villain, Doctor Doom, which I don't know if you've heard people complain about our previous castings for Doctor Doom, but he's always been whitewashed. He's a Romani character. He's always been whitewashed, and his characterization has always been heavily misconstrued in the movies, and here we are again. Then it was followed up with the information that Chris Evans would be returning as Steve Rogers, which, if you were in a room with me at the time, you could hear how audibly loud my eyes were when they rolled. Not to mention the Russos coming back to direct, which, suffice to say, I wasn't exactly happy about it. And not because I want to hate the movie, it's because I'm getting the feeling that the people behind these movies think we're stupid, to put it quite frank, right? Then I get online to see people justifying it by discrediting the work that was done in the MCU pre-Endgame with Thanos and all the setup that he had. So in today's video, I want to address this, first by looking at the MCU pre-Endgame and its setup for Thanos, then comparing it to what we have gotten post-Endgame with Kang at first and now Doom, I guess. So with all the preamble out the way, let's get it done. I really do dislike comparing the MCU pre and post Endgame because I feel like it's beating a dead horse at this point. But I've been seeing people on Twitter, TikTok, and other social media platforms talking about how Thanos had no buildup or little buildup leading into Infinity War, which is just objectively untrue. The very first Avengers movie was our first real look at Thanos, and this was all the way back in 2012, bro. It was our first indicator that we were in for something bigger than just the Avengers, which also had its own buildup with post-credit scenes from Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Thor. Also, just those movies, we kind of had an idea like, oh yeah. Oh, and also Captain America. Captain America, the first Avenger. Come on, bro. Back on topic. From the very beginning, the MCU had a direction, they had a vision, they had a loose idea of where they wanted to or where they would end up, even if it doesn't go exactly how they planned it. Thanos is a great example of this. He was first shown to us in 2012, and I will admit he had no major showings outside of this except another scene at the end of Age of Ultron and a 5-minute cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy, which does a very good job of establishing him and having us fear him, right? But even with this lack of screen time, he always haunted the narrative. At the end of the very first Thor movie, Loki falls off the Bifrost and is rescued by Thanos. He then gives him what we would now come to know as the Mind Stone and his Chitauri army to invade Earth in his name. This, outside of him basically empowering our first major antagonist in the MCU and arguably one of its most iconic, again, below Thanos, inadvertently sets up so many more things to come down the line. If the Mind Stone isn't on Earth, we don't get Age of Ultron. If we don't get Age of Ultron, we don't get Vision. The Sokovia Accord, if Sokovia isn't destroyed, there's no Sokovia Accords thing. So Civil War is out the window. The Avengers never break up, and so on and so on. It may seem a bit exaggerated, but it genuinely isn't. So many things on Earth would not have happened if not for Thanos. He is a major singularity point for the entire cinematic universe. Then looking at him on a galactic scale, he's basically the entire reason that the Guardians of the Galaxy are formed. Ronan the Accuser's entire fetch quest for the Power Stone was because Thanos wanted the stone, and in return, he would use it to destroy Xandar. And they're trying to prevent that. And looking at it from a character point of view, without Thanos, there is no Nebula or Gamora, which honestly would have been a better life for the both of them. They deserved better. But then they would never join the Guardians of the Galaxy, and probably Ego's plan to take over the entire galaxy would have gone through, which adds a new layer of world building based on the things Thanos did in the background. It drove outcomes that are both good and bad. The point is, Thanos is both an active and passive force in the background of the MCU pre-Endgame, before he's even introduced, or officially introduced. We all knew he was there and lurking, closer the more time went on. Then finally, with Infinity War, which is commonly described as the best Avengers movie, he shows up and everything feels earned. It's paid off. The relationship that develops between him and Tony makes sense. Thanos is the one who caused so many bad things to occur on Earth, and Tony is the one who destroyed Thanos' army. One singular dude took out Thanos' whole plan to take over Earth using Loki. The MCU pre-Endgame was a well-connected universe. It wasn't just random projects being thrown at the wall with no through line. And I'm not saying every movie needs to serve to push the narrative forward, because not every movie in the Infinity Saga pushed the Infinity Saga plot forward. But even those served as setup and world building that were used to their advantage. They used it in the movie, the way that we see characters interact, the reasons why characters are even there. No character in the Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame were there without reason. Yes, the entire planet is being invaded and taken over and all that kind of stuff. The galaxy's at risk, yada, yada, yada. I get it. But the thing is, we see why these characters call upon each other. We see why these characters have interacted in the past, like Ant-Man meeting Falcon and then Falcon introducing him to Captain America, and that's how he becomes a part of the Avengers, like that kind of stuff. And now I know in the new Avengers, I guess, you know, with them, that's why they're a part of the Avengers, because there's that whole thing going on. But I genuinely know nothing about Sam Wilson's Avengers team. It really does piss me off. This is the first time that after New Avengers, we heard that Sam was assembling his own Avengers team. We don't see that. Captain America got 3 movies before Thanos showed up, and you gave Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson 1 movie that wasn't that good, and it was basically a Hulk backdoor pilot sequel movie. And then the TV show that he got was really good. I really enjoyed it. Should have been a movie though. That's the thing that I'm saying. The MCU pre-Endgame had a purpose. It knew where it was going. It just had to find a way to get there.
No strings on me.
I want to take this very jarring intermission to say thank you guys so much for the love that you've been showing the channel. You know, the last video is doing great. We're almost at 1,000 views on that one. And if you haven't seen it yet, I do highly recommend we talk about anime filler and how it may be good for anime over there. And if you are enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. We're trying to hit 1,300 subs by the end of this month. We're at 1289 right now. So, you know, if you haven't subscribed yet, you're enjoying it, do it down there. Now, let's talk post-Endgame. The MCU post-Endgame was in a great place. They just came off of the 2nd highest grossing movie ever, right behind the first Avatar. So suffice to say, they were in very good company. You know, I was there for whatever Marvel would drop next, and they had moderately good movies following this. I still think Shang-Chi was one of the best movies pre-Doomsday rework, and argue with your mama about that, not me. But we were in the multiverse saga, and literally only 4 movies actually addressed the multiverse, that being Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which is honestly probably the worst depiction of the multiverse, ironically enough. Deadpool and Wolverine was the other, which had a way better multiverse story, and also Spider-Man No Way Home, which was honestly also a very good use of the multiverse. But it's just crazy that every movie that just features the multiverse did it better than the one that had it at its central theme. And I'm not going to talk about the shows other than Loki, because it's honestly the only one really worth talking about. Because Loki, to this day, is the best piece of media that the MCU has ever produced. I'm not talking Netflix MCU. I'm talking like Disney Plus, like MCU, Marvel TV. Loki is the best thing they have done. That is the one thing I will never shit on, and I actually plan to make a video on it in the future. I've been planning that for a while. But here we are, introduced to the character of Kang in this TV show, who is at this point he who remains. We were introduced to the idea of a multiversal war that will occur due to his death and him holding together the sacred timeline and all that kind of whatever wumbo jumbo bullshit, which, to be honest, he seemed thrilled about. You know, this was supposed to be the through line. We'd then go on to see Kang again in Ant-Man, then Loki season 2, and then not long after, Majors, who I must say was phenomenal in the role. He was the best part of Ant-Man Quantumania, or Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Loved it, but he got involved in a domestic dispute with his ex-girlfriend, which I will not be discussing on this channel. If you want to go check that out, other people have done it. That's not really my avenue. But this caused them to have to shift drastically, leading us to what we have now with Avengers Doomsday. We would then be shown Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and the Fantastic Four. Those are the movies that came after, with only a post-credit scene from Thunderbolts being the only thing leading into Doomsday. And before you say, oh, Fantastic Four, blah, 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 Doom was at the end, you could literally take that as them setting up a sequel for the Fantastic Four with Doom. That's how you can interpret that. With the post-credit scene at the end of Thunderbolts, or the New Avengers, whatever you call it, that is a literal direct connection to Avengers Doomsday. Right? Just to put that plain and simple, right? With the trailers that we have seen so far, it's seeming like a lot of the characters that have been built up are now being sidelined for characters that are so obviously being used as nostalgia bait. Steve Rogers is back for some reason, even though he was supposed to just live a normal life with Peggy and fuck off and never come back. The Fox X-Men from literally 25 years ago are back as some final farewell again, which we've been saying goodbye to them for the past decade, bro. I'm so tired of this. Like, X-Men, what's Days of Future Past, that movie came out all the way back in 2014, and they did it fantastically there. We didn't need more farewell content for Patrick Stewart and, is it Ewan? No, it's not Ewan McGregor. Whatever Magneto's actors called, those guys, or Marsden, Cyclops. Like, dude, we didn't need that. I'm tired of them. I'm tired of seeing them. They're the ones that you brought back in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness too. Like, I'm tired of it, bro. First it was Last Stand, then it was Days of Future Past, and they did it well. Patrick Stewart is 90 years old playing Professor X, bro. I'm tired of it. They just went, let's get as much nostalgia as possible. And for the biggest elephant in the room, the RDJ casting. They capped off his story as Tony Stark beautifully. It was a great finale. And now we have him coming back as Doctor Doom. Dude, I heard his accent in the trailers. Okay, it sounded cool. But then, you know, Comic-Cons happened, and also I wrote this before Comic-Con. Dude, I am so much less hype. It's looking like the leaks, if you know, the leaks for Avengers Doomsday, they weren't sounding very good, and it's looking like they're true. And my thing is, you can do an Avengers movie without buildup. Age of Ultron didn't have buildup. Ultron kind of just came in, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's cool. I like him. You can do that. But the thing with Age of Ultron is that Avengers movies weren't this big banner for a crossover for the entire universe that we're building up to. Avengers movies kind of just happened. That's how the first two were. That Loki just showed up, and then the guys were like, oh, we need to assemble. Like, granted, Fury was doing the Avengers initiative, but that was all like, oh, like, yeah, if some shit happened, you know, you show up. That's how that was. And then by the time we get to Age of Ultron, they're all kind of cool with each other. So when some shit pops off, they're just there. They just make it happen. They just do that. But now Avengers movies are just this big buildup that every single hero, even if they have never interacted with the Avengers, needs to come together. I don't know if you remember this, but not every person in the Marvel Universe is an Avenger or wants to be an Avenger. Also, not every person, I'm talking about comics here, in the Marvel Universe gets involved in those big ass crossovers, bro. But this is what we have now, which honestly, on an RDJ standpoint and Tony Stark, it's kind of slightly tainted, you know, if again, the leaks I'm hearing are true. And apparently they're adding new footage at the end of this Endgame re-release. And I don't know how that's gonna go. I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't, but you know, the MCU pre-Endgame was very much intentional. There was some level of creative direction. With Doomsday, I can understand the want to pivot after Majors, but you can literally just recast Kang. He's the one character that you can just recast. You've done it so many times with other characters. You can just recast Kang the Conqueror. He can literally be anybody. Anybody. It's his whole thing. Recast him. But the way it's being done is looking like the most cash grab way possible. With Age of Ultron, again, I know there was no setup before getting into it, but Avengers movies back then weren't these huge events. Marvel knows that the title alone will get people into seats. That's why they're calling all these crossover things Avengers movies. And it hurts to see, because if it was done differently, I genuinely think this could have been the ultimate comeback, both financially and creatively, for Marvel. But that's the video. You know, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please subscribe. And if you made it this far into the video, you did enjoy it, just to let you know. But comment down below what you guys think. I'm sure you will definitely let me know what you think. You know, am I wrong about Doomsday? Are you looking forward to it? You know, I'll be there, I'll watch it, and if it's good, I'll eat my words. I'll get on here and I'll make a video about it. I'm not ashamed to say that. But I love you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.